is one of the most common topics that can cause couples to argue, and for newlyweds it can be even more difficult. Joining us on today's Money Monday segment is financial advisor Rob Wilson with Laser Capital Management with some tips to make it work. I was just at a wedding on Saturday, so very appropriate time.
Yeah, it's that time. Wedding season is here, and so I know what's going to be on the mind of a lot of brides and grooms are decorations and flowers and gifts, but you can't forget that after the big day, there's still a relationship that you have to manage. And according to a recent study, it says that money causes about, on average, 5 fights a year for couples. So if you can take financial stress out of the equation, it'll make it that much easier to get your wedding off on the right foot.
And it can often lead to divorce, right? I mean, not to talk about that with the newlyweds, but it can be that big of a deal.
Yeah, it can, unfortunately. I mean, the number we hear thrown around is 50% of marriages end in divorce. So the more you can do to take stress out of the equation, the better off you'll be.
All right, so number one, let's talk about what to do before the wedding.
Yeah, the first thing I think you should do is that you have to sit down and discuss your goals and attitudes about money. And here's why this is important. The median age for people getting married for the first time has never been higher. So because people are getting married later in life, they tend to come to the marriage with more complicated financial lives. So you may have credit card debt there, you may have student loans there, and you may just have experiences that have shaped your feelings about what to do with your money. And so it's important for you guys to sit down and discuss these things, because while you may not agree on everything, at least you can understand where the other person is coming from.
And you've got to know everything, including their credit rating.
Oh yeah, the next thing that I think you should do is really sit down and swap credit reports and take a look at the financial standing of your potential spouse, because it's important for you to know what you're getting into. I mean, you know that you can get along if you decided to get married, but these issues are important. Money is often one of the biggest reasons that people get divorced. So it's important for you to have that picture in your mind right away.
And then discuss your spending on both the honeymoon and the wedding, how much you want to spend.
Exactly. This is probably the first big thing that you're going to spend money on as a couple. And so do you really want to put yourself in debt just to have a nice wedding? I mean, I haven't seen any research that suggests that the more money that you spend on your wedding, the better marriage you have. So it's important for you to figure out what that right number is.
Yeah, and that's kind of starting to compromise things sometimes, how to work together through those issues.
Yeah, this is a great exercise to start to figure out how you're going to deal with each other as far as money goes.
And then this may not sound as romantic, but the financial wedding vows.
Well, yes. I mean, I think if you're going to sit down and you're going to write vows to each other about how you're going to live your lives together, I think it's also important to write your financial vows. How are you going to deal with each other as far as money goes? How are decisions going to be made? And what ideas and theories do you share as far as what you should do with your money?
Okay, great. Now let's talk about after the wedding. What kind of things do we need to do?
Yeah, so after the wedding, you want to make sure that you update or you create your important documents. So your will, your trust, your power of attorney. If you're getting married for the first time, you may not have these documents at all.
Right.
If you were perhaps married previously, you want to make sure that you update those things so that they're all properly donated.
Okay, and what about reviewing account titles and beneficiaries? What's all that?
Yeah, this is very important, because if something happens to you, it may not be as straightforward as you think how your assets may pass to your spouse. So for example, in your 401k at work, your spouse is automatically the primary beneficiary, but on your IRA accounts, your spouse is not.
Wow.
So you want to make sure that you have those beneficiaries properly listed, and especially on accounts that aren't financial, like property, jewelry, artwork. Those things can get tied up in probate if not properly titled. So you may want to put those actually in a trust so that you can specifically state how you want those assets to be transferred.
Interesting. Okay, then diversify your investment accounts, you say.
Yeah, one of the things that you really do want to look at as a couple is how you're invested. So say, for example, you guys both work at the same company. Do you really want to have both of your portfolios tied up 100% in the company stock? Probably not.
Right.
So you want to look at both of your portfolios as a whole and diversify accordingly so that you don't have too much risk all tied up in one place.
And then for all this stuff you're talking about, you got to have a good record keeping system.
Yeah, you do. It's important that each of you know where all of the important documents are kept, and that each of you know the names and phone numbers and how to get in contact with your advisors, again, should something unfortunately happen to you.
All right, and then things to watch out for in the future.
Yeah, you know what? The biggest cause of financial distress, it's not usually spending or bad investments, it's emergencies that come up. So be it health emergencies or something with your house, the dishwasher blows up and now you got to put incur a bunch of credit card debt to fix these things. So it's important, A, that you start an emergency fund, that you've got at least a couple of months of living expenses in a bank account that you can access if something happens. And you also want to make sure that you're properly insured. And that means life insurance, health insurance, and also disability insurance if you lose your job or you get hurt and you can't work. And then you also might want to think about long-term care insurance if there's any sort of disease or conditions that are hereditary in your family. That's something you may want to think about as well.
Okay, and then tax filing status and pressure on home and kids.
Yeah, so you want to think about whether you want to file taxes jointly or individually. If you're worried about your spouse's ability to actually pay their taxes, or maybe they have a business and they have some complicated issues going on, you may want to file separately so that you don't incur those tax liabilities. And yeah, and the last thing was, try not to succumb to the pressure that your friends and family will put on you to go out and buy a big house and go out and start a family. Because if you do those things before it's really financially feasible, again, you'll be incorporating a lot more stress into your marriage than you need. So if you wait a little bit until you're ready, I think you'll be better off.
Great advice as always. Thank you, Rob. Rob Wilson, financial advisor with Blazer Capital Management, here with Money Mondays every other week.